So this isn't the abomination that I thought it was going to be, but I still left the theater feeling like Halloween Ends was really pointless. Halloween Ends is the final chapter in the semi-rebooted Halloween sequel trilogy that takes place 50 years after the events of the 1978 Halloween film. I don't want to spoil much about the plot, but I will explain the setup. It's been about 4 years since the events of Halloween Kills, and Michael Myers has disappeared. Things seem to be getting back to normal in Haddonfield. Laurie Strode's granddaughter Allison is now a nurse, and she has started dating a guy named Corey, who has a tragic past. But while Laurie initially encourages their relationship, she becomes suspicious of Corey's motives. Michael Myers eventually returns, and we get a very unsatisfying final showdown between Michael and Laurie. This really should not have been a trilogy. The 2018 Halloween was the perfect ending to this franchise, and they really botched it up by having Michael survive and show up for 2 more movies. What did I like about Halloween Ends? First and foremost, I am really glad this movie does not take place on the same night as the first 2 movies. Could you imagine if they tried expanding that same night into a 3rd film? It had some suspenseful scenes that didn't rely on excessive gore. I mean, there is a lot of violence in it, but it wasn't as ridiculous and sadistic as that of Halloween Kills. The soundtrack was really cool with the remixed Halloween theme with the metal guitar accents. I know they did that in the previous 2 movies, but it still had a strong effect on me. I mean, it's competently made. The acting is decent, the camera work is pretty good, not as impressive as the first one, but there was still some clever camera work there. But there is a lot that I didn't like about Halloween Ends. A big problem I had was that Laurie and Michael take a back seat in this one, and we focus most of our attention on Allison and Corey. This Corey guy came out of nowhere, and he gets his own origin story that made the movie feel more like a spin-off rather than a conclusion to a 3-part epic. The dialogue was pretty bad. Jamie Lee Curtis has a lot of over-the-top lines about evil and the boogeyman and fear, and the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, that kind of stuff. And a lot of the movie also just didn't make sense. I don't know why characters behaved the way they did. Why did Allison fall so hard for Corey? They provide an explanation, but it's a silly explanation. Why did Michael take a break for 4 years? Why didn't anybody try to hunt him down? Why would Laurie live a normal life now, even though her tormentor is still out there? Why are the Strodes still living in Haddonfield? Corey even asks Allison, "Why do you still live here?" And she says, "Because my memories are here." Yes, your father, mother, and friends were brutally murdered, and you were nearly killed yourself. We wouldn't want to leave those precious memories behind. It's also weird because we get several instances of people blaming Laurie for Michael coming back to Haddonfield and killing people. They're like, "You provoked him. You provoked a madman and you brought him here." I'm like, what? That didn't happen. She's the victim here. We also just brush over the fact that Laurie's daughter was murdered at the end of Halloween Kills. They acknowledge it in Jamie Lee Curtis's voiceover at the beginning of the movie, but it had no impact on her. In fact, her life at the beginning of the film is better than ever now that her daughter is dead. We didn't see a flashback of her discovering her daughter's body or anything like that. And we also hear several times throughout the movie that Michael Myers is just a man. Really? Because you pretty clearly established in Halloween Kills that Michael Myers is a supernatural freak when 20 people beat him to a pulp with crowbars and baseball bats, stabbed him in the back twice with a pitchfork, and then stabbed him in the brainstem with a knife. And then he stands up and kills 12 people. But now in Halloween Ends, he's suddenly really susceptible to knives. There were a lot of cheap jump scares, and it was just stupid stuff, like someone hears a noise down the hall of their house, and they're walking slowly, and it's silent, and then it suddenly cuts to a slamming a door in the next room, and they make the door slamming really loud, and I can't stand that stuff. I think I'll leave it there. I wouldn't recommend it. Just pretend the 2 sequels don't exist, and consider 2018's Halloween the real conclusion of the franchise.